All right, welcome back. Let's unpack the insolvency and legal issues arising from the FTX collapse. There we see the contagion continues to unravel. Let's find out how investors in Nigeria can lay claim to assets on the exchange, as the former FTX CEO has been arrested and hearings continue in the U.S. Let's talk to Mala Meke, partner, Stren and Bland Partners. Join us via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Ladi, for having me.
Yeah, so it's still the FTX issue there, hitting all the headlines in the crypto space at this point, and also, other markets. We're seeing, the firm is looking at selling its functioning units, including Ledger X. What does this mean for investors?
Yes, I think that's a good move. I think it's good news for investors. Essentially, what is happening currently within the insolvency framework is that they are trying to sell off viable assets in order to bring in more money to the bankruptcy estate, or if you want to use the Nigerian terminology, that would be the insolvency estate. Currently, there are outstanding liabilities of about 2.4 billion. They've been able to recover only about 700 million. That's a total liability of about, to creditors, of about 3.1 billion. So there's still a lot of money out there. And so what they are trying to do is to bring in more money into the bankruptcy estate in order to be able to then ultimately dispose that to creditors. From an insolvency perspective, that would be done through a process known as the liquidation waterfall. In Nigeria, we have that. If you look at Section 657 of CAMA, that's the Companies that Allied Matters Act. It has provisions relating to how you disperse this money. So ultimately, that's also what will happen in the US at the end of the day. So currently, what they are trying to do is to do a fire sale. Obviously, that will be sold below the market value. But ultimately, that's a good move, which is unsurprising. The gentleman who is now the CEO of the FTX is somebody everybody knows in the restructuring market. Recovered about 20 billion during the Enron scandal. That's John Ray. So I think they know what they are doing, and that's good news for investors and creditors, that ultimately there would be something at the end of the day in the bankruptcy estate for them to lay their hands on at the end of the day. Because these particular assets, which from my understanding is actually independent of FTX, are already losing market value as a result of what is currently happening. So if they are not sold off, they would be devalued down. The value would depreciate to $0. All of them have either undergone regulatory pause, or some have even been put under administration. So I think that's the right move to make under the circumstances, and I think investors should be happy with that.
And obviously, investors in Nigeria also, will find this as good news. But I'm wondering how, users right here in Nigeria can actually lay claim, to the assets stock on the exchange.
Okay, so that's an interesting question, because it's not just about FTX. We get a lot of questions relating to how one could participate in cross-border insolvency proceedings, right? Unfortunately, currently, Nigeria runs what you can call a territorial approach when it comes to insolvency, which is sad. I could remember in 2018 when I was a member of the committee that did the work that bettered the current insolvency proceedings in CAMA. It was supported by the World Bank. The World Bank consultant was pushing for there to be inclusion of cross-border insolvency provisions. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So, so essentially, we don't have a cross-border insolvency provision that would allow sharing of information, that will allow some level of cross-border dissemination of information. Not at all. We are not even, we've not adopted the UNCITRAL model law on cross-border insolvency that was adopted in 1997. We've not adopted even the Hague Convention on Choice of Court agreement that was adopted in 2005. Countries like US, UK, and even South Africa has even, they've all adopted the UNCITRAL model law cross-border insolvency. So essentially, we don't have that officially now. However, what we have currently, because in the US, already the bankruptcy proceedings going on. In fact, they've been able to set up and appoint the US Department of Justice have been able to set up and appoint the Official Creditors Committee, which is more or less akin to what you have in Nigeria under the liquidation procedure when you talk about a committee of inspection. So that committee, the Official Creditors Committee, is supposed to take care of those who would fall under, when you look at liquidation waterfalls, who would fall under unsecured creditors, which I think is where the bulk of Nigerians should be. So we'll just have to fall back to the good old provision, which is that, or the good old procedure, which is that if you are interested, perhaps what you would do is contact a local insolvency practitioner in Nigeria. Thankfully, what has happened is that the Corporate Affairs Commission has now licensed insolvency practitioners. And usually, for those who are licensed, you would have received training, and you will be a member of the Business Recovery and Insolvency Practitioners Association of Nigeria, BRIPAM, which is the affiliate of Install International. So what would then happen would be that the local insolvency practitioner, some of us who are licensed, would have pool of contact, pool of colleagues, whether in the offshore jurisdiction, which is where some of these exchanges are domiciled. FTX is set up in Bahamas, for instance, or even in the US and the UK. And then ultimately, they would be able to then, within the context of, for instance, the FTX issue, they would be able to then liaise and ensure that your interest is represented on the Official Creditors Committee as per what is going on in the US. And at the end of the day, when disbursements are then being made to creditors, especially the unsecured creditors, that you get a bite out of the entire pie at the end of the day. So unfortunately, we don't have a formal proceedings that would have allowed us to, with dispatch, act in respect of this matter. But what would then happen would be some level of collaboration between your local attorney in Nigeria, who is more or less an insolvency practitioner, and then the International Council, who would then assist to ensure that your interest is well represented. So all hope is not lost, even though we would have advocated and would have loved a situation where we have standalone cross-border insolvency provisions. We did have something of that nature under the bankruptcy and insolvency bill that was passed by both houses of by the National Assembly in 2016, but unfortunately the president declined and said so. Currently, we don't have that, but there is still hope as to means of such recovery.
All right, still light, at the end of the tunnel. All right, we'll keep tracking how the proceedings go with the whole bankruptcy issue there with FTX. I want to thank you so much, Amalameke, partner, Stren and Bland, partners, for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.